What if wrinkles weren't signs of wear but maps of wisdom? What if creativity, like age, became more beautiful the longer it lived? Today's page is a gentle ode to age, memory, and the invisible thread that ties 3 generations together: my grandfather, my mother, and me. Hi and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Katjana. I'm a psychotherapist and lifelong crafter, currently in the middle of this deeply personal creative project, my July Junk Journal Challenge 2025. This project is hosted by Leigh over at Leigh Creates, and each day of the week I create one page in my accordion-style journal, using her prompts as jumping off points for both crafting and gentle inner reflections. These videos are a mix of storytelling, psychology, and quiet creativity. I like to think of them as a kind of gentle crafting for the soul. And today's prompt is old person, and I'm approaching it with a full heart. This is a photo of my mother when she was just a little girl in the arms of her father, my grandfather. It's a quite black and white image, and yet it holds so much life for me. Looking at it, I feel this powerful sense of continuity. My grandfather's protective arms around my mother, my mother's tiny frame, and me decades later holding this photo, crafting it carefully into a journal. And then I have here these 3 fussy cut roses, because I would like to dedicate this page to my mom, and she so loves flowers in any form. And then as another item here, I have this little calendar page that I found in her daily calendar, and it has a little story attached to it, and my mom laughed so much when she read it out to me, so I thought I will fold it up later and include it in today's page. My mom has everything. Some of you know that I am with her in the moment and visiting her in Germany, and I found this photo corners that I also might use. I prepared a template for this site that makes it easier for me to cut out the right size of this photo. It's not the original photo. I made a color copy of the photo and backed it up with coffee dyed paper. And yeah, as many of you know, I'm usually living in New Zealand, but I'm currently visiting my elderly mother here in Germany. She is still mentally sharp, curious, and full of humor, but her body has become noticeably more fragile this year. That shift is hard to witness, actually, and it brings up something I think many of us feel but don't always say out loud: the pain of watching our parents age, the shift in roles, the grief that comes not just with loss, but with the anticipation of it. And somehow this page became a quiet way for me to process those feelings. There's a beautiful paradox in aging. While the body grows slower, the mind often grows deeper. And as a therapist, I've often sat with clients in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s who still feel surprised when they catch a glimpse of themselves in the mirror. I don't feel that old, they say. Inside, I'm still 25 or sometimes 12. And my mom tells me the same. And yeah, they are. We all are our ages, all of them within us. The young child, the unsure teenager, the bold adult, all still part of us. That inner layer is what gives us richness, but it also makes growing older complex. We grieve who we were, even as we try to celebrate who we've become. And spending this time with my mother has deepened something in me. I see in her hands the same shapes as my own. The way she folds a towel, the way she walks when she's tired. It's like looking at a future version of myself. And I also think about my grandfather. He lived through a war, built a life from scraps, held my mother in that photo with a kind of fierce tenderness. I knew him well, and he passed away at the same age like my mom is today. There's something spiritual, almost mythical about realizing we are the result of so many lives lived before us, that we carry them in us, not just genetically, but emotionally. Even the things they never spoke about somehow find their way into our ways of coping, our preferences, our fears. And as I attach the photo corners to the picture, I notice how carefully I hold it. Almost like I'm afraid it could slip out of my fingers, that somehow I could lose it. And maybe in a way that makes sense. I've been thinking a lot about how our bodies remember things. Memories we've never spoken aloud, gestures passed down like family recipes. The way my mother, for example, sorts the washing while hanging it on the washing line, or the way my grandfather would plant his seedlings in any bit of soil he would find in the garden. And now I catch myself doing the same, in the same way. There's often a kind of quiet wisdom in our bodies, what some therapists call like body memory. We take so much of our habits and beliefs, the things we take as given from our elders without even realizing that we do. I find it interesting and really worthwhile to be curious about these things. Where can I find similarities to the people who came before me? And where am I different? And so I decided in this little journal to include several of these old photos in my journal and to use the opportunity to speak with my mom about them as much as possible. And as I said before, I also wanted to include this little story she found and loved so much. And here it is. A little girl and her father are at a magnificent hotel buffet. She has him explain in great detail every dish, every option. She listens wide-eyed, obviously impressed by the idea that she can choose anything she wants. And finally, after careful thought, she announced, "I think today I'll just have ice cream." When my mom read this out to me, she laughed and laughed and laughed. It's such a lovely story, and one that says so much about how children approach abundance, freedom, and choice. Even when everything is possible, they follow their heart. They choose what feels good. And I see that in my mother too, even now. She's learned over time to choose what makes her feel good. She keeps flowers in the house. She laughs with her neighbors. She still remembers her father's smell and the weight of his arm when he picked her up. It reminds me that no matter how old we get, the child inside us never really disappears. She just gets wrapped up in experience. There's an art to aging well, I think. It's not about ignoring what hurts. It's about making space for the full picture. Pain and playfulness, grief and laughter. The deeper I go into this project, the more I realize these pages are a kind of mirror. Not just of what's been, but what I still hope for. And with that, I really admire my mom with her flowers. These roses that I fussy cut feel right for decorating this page. And this here is like a secret writing spot, and I would like to glue one of the roses down here. My fussy cutting is not perfect. Like all of the flowers, they look a little torn around the edges and like a little faded as anyway. But to me, that what makes them even more beautiful. And I think there's something healing about making beauty from worn things. My mother, for example, she rearranges her flowers every morning. She gently takes out the ones that have died and carefully rearranges the ones that still hold on, down to the last flower that will end up in one, like on its own, in a tiny glass. And I find that's such a metaphor how she is approaching life, like reorganizing her life again and again around the people that have died before her, her friends and family that one by one have left. And it's such a gentle beauty in how she does it. My mother has always loved flowers, and yeah, even now with her back aching and her steps being slower, she still bends down to admire a rose bush or trim a stray branch or rearrange her flowers. And there's resilience in that, and a kind of softness that knows its own strengths. And I find one of the hardest parts about living overseas is that leaving her always hurts so much. Like every time I visit her in Germany, I know it could be the last time I see her this strong, this lucid, this much herself. And that awareness, it aches in a very particular way. It settles in the lower back or in my chest like a heaviness. Not panic exactly, but a kind of emotional jet lag that lingers. Even now, being back in New Zealand, part of me stays with her in Germany. And I know I'm not alone in this. So many of us live far from the people we love. We miss the quiet changes, the subtle shifts that only time reveals. And when we do visit, the reality can hit us all at once. They are older, and so are we. And as I build this page and fussy cut this rose to make it a little bit stronger for a tuck, I try to listen, not just to the sound of my scissors and the brush here around it, but also to my inner landscape. What needs to be held? What needs to be said? And today, I don't want to fix anything or explain anything. I just want to notice. There's something profoundly therapeutic about art that doesn't aim to be pretty, that's just about presence. If you are listening to this, maybe you'd like to pause for a second and ask too, what part of me feels old today? What part still feels young? And how could I let both sit at the same table? There's no rush to answer, just to notice. Like let your art, your journaling, or even your silence be the response. Our culture often tells us that aging is decline, that beauty fades, that value diminishes. But I don't believe that's true the way I see it. I see people growing softer, wiser, more curious. I see humor deepening, love maturing, priorities clarifying. So my quote for today is, wisdom looks good with wrinkles. So does creativity, and I stand by that. I hope that when I'm older, someone will look at a photo of me holding a child or a glue stick and smile at how alive I still was. I hope that my pages, like the ones we are making now, will be little relics of presence and care. Thank you for spending this reflective moment with me today. If this resonated, I'd love for you to leave a comment, maybe share a memory of someone older who shaped your life. And don't forget to subscribe if you like to keep crafting and reflecting together. I hope I will see you again in the next video for Prompt 21. Until then, be kind to yourself and cherish every moment of your precious life.